So what's the singer's name?
Jason Isbell.
Jason Isbell. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, I'll say this: his first solo record is called Southeastern, and that's
garbage.
No.
So for me, I guess this music is like, don't smile. You're making me nervous.
I forgot to send you the For Me commercial that I was talking about.
For me, that's right. Well, for moi, the music is really exciting to be making and feels like a representation of stuff that feels like it's in my future, but also a lot of nostalgia. There's so many sounds of folk, Americana, almost country kind of sounds that we talked about early when we were making decisions about what the record would sound like. That feels like stuff that I listened to as a kid that my parents got me into. Oh. Like there was always Peter, Paul, and Mary playing in the house. Always. And I think that's part of why my ear is so tuned to listening for harmonies, because that's all of their interplay was I was used to having. But I don't know, what's some stuff that you hear as we're kind of getting further in?
You seem to be looking for a natural space where you could merge those influences and have your own voice.
Yeah.
And as a, singer-songwriter myself, I'm familiar with that journey. As someone who pulls from a whole variety of influences, I related to that experience. So I'm glad to hear you say that we're pulling some of those things together in a place that feels, simultaneously familiar and forward-looking.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. We share a lot of jazz in common, but we were trying to make a record that wasn't exclusively a jazz singer. You have the incredible facility with your voice of a jazz singer, which is exciting for me to work with because, anyone who has that kind of level on their instrument is just fun to work with. So the question was, how do we pull from songwriting and folk and country music and pop music and the jazz idiom and create an organic space for you? And it feels like we're getting there.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, so much of my kind of awareness of what smart music sounded like was through jazz. So it was sort of figuring out, okay, how does this feel like I want it to feel without feeling like, oh God, this is jazz. Okay.
Right.
And that's like a space I think a lot of people coming out of music school are trying to find. Like, okay, I have all this information.
Yeah.
What do I do with it? And for so long, when I was going out and singing anything, I was just putting notes out into the space. And it took me a long time to find where I thought they actually belonged.
Yeah.
And where I felt like my voice belonged in the mix of all of these lines and all of this harmonic knowledge I'd gained. And so feeling like I'm at this place now where like my artistry is meeting with all of these other things is exciting, and that the music is reflecting that.
Yeah.
It's cool.
That is cool.
It is cool.
I think when you listen to, like when you go back and listen to Ray Charles, for example, I love Ray Charles.
Yeah.
Or Ella, who maybe is more polished and refined, and they don't ever sound manufactured. You never listen to those records and think, oh, they're just sort of, that's their line, or that's, it feels very organic. I think it's a struggle for many musicians, particularly musicians who have been fortunate to receive some formal training, to get that information, as you said, get back to a space where it feels like a natural presentation.
Yeah.
I think you walk that line beautifully.
Thank you. It's hard.
Yeah.
And it's weird because I think you find yourself, at least for me, and as I'm working on it with students now, I never want anybody to feel like we're going backwards, because it's not a backwards journey. It's still a forward journey. But it's reminding yourself, okay, why do I like this music? Why do I listen to this? Or like, why do I still go back to some of those same albums that I've been listening to since I was a kid? And there's something there that's connecting you to it, even if you can't identify what it is.
Yeah.
So if you can find that space in the music you're making, even if it's for work-related stuff, if you can still find that space, then you might be on the right track.
Right. So give me a couple records that I remember you sent me a list of songs and some albums that you were listening to, and I sent you a couple things back, which I I was thinking about that yesterday. I feel like your reaction was like, "What is this stuff?" you hear me when you think of this stuff. But what are a couple of the records that you thought, here's a piece I want to pull from. Here's a piece I want to pull from.
Definitely Nora Jones.
Sure.
I mean, the way she sings she has a lot of soul, and it's hidden in this like kind of tiny package, but she just tells a story in a very unique way that I enjoyed. Actually, some of the first recordings I'd heard of her were singing Ray Charles music in this like Wynton and Nora. It might have been a Wynton concert, but her singing Ray Charles with Willie Nelson and all these artists. I was like, this is cool.
Yeah.
So she's the boss. Yeah, I mean, obviously Ella's a big influence, but I also listened to some of the in-betweens of what was standard jazz and moving into the 60s and the 70s. So some of those artists like Dinah Washington.
Love Dinah.
And like she had this way, we've had this conversation before of like kind of how that progressed into pop, and like that big bandy sound was almost the way there, that like it went from like small group, big bandy, Motown, then they landed in some of the like Baby You Got, is it Baby You Got What It Takes? It's her, and things like that.
Yeah.
So her sound too, that was a big influence. And then like, yeah, like some of the folky, Peter, Paul and Mary kind of vibe, stuff that feels more acoustic, more gentle. I've loved that space and love what my voice is able to do there. So felt like that was somewhere I needed to guide it to.
You know, when you're cooking, you might just use a little bit of this spice or a little bit of that spice, you know, but ultimately it makes a dish that makes sense, hopefully.
Yeah.
So I think if we came to it from, you know, exactly the same perspective, it probably wouldn't be as interesting.
No, and there were definitely, like, I listen to the stuff now that you sent me, and I'm like, oh.
Right?
There it is. It was right there the whole time.
Yeah.
I just didn't see it. Yeah.
So listen, true or false? You love Britney Spears.
That's absolutely true.
True. Okay. True or false? You could sing her under the table.
That's not true.
What?
That's not true.
You definitely have to say true to that.
But Britney's not about the singing. It's about the experience.
Yeah, and you're right.
You have to experience Britney Spears.
My wife is still trying to explain Madonna to me. I'm like, I don't know.
You don't get it at all?
No, I get it. I guess I get it. I mean.
Now, here's the thing. Madonna's the same thing. It's the experience.
Yes,
it's the same.
I get that.
It's the same thing. And like, there are some songs of hers that are like actually kind of musical. Like, have you heard her slow song "Crazy for You"?
I don't think so.
Okay, that one has some hip stuff in there where you're like, oh, okay, little thing there. That's your homework. You can go listen to that.
Okay, so Nile Rodgers produced some of her big stuff.
Yeah.
And Nile is a hero of mine who I actually got to speak with at length. It was actually interesting. I think that one of the things about music, as you know, as I'm getting older and trying to write better material and trying to guide projects like yours, I think one of the things that I'm getting a little bit better at is appreciating whatever positive thing an artist or presentation brings. So, you know, Madonna's iconic for the reason she's iconic, not because she's a great singer particularly. Celine Dion, aesthetically, I don't love the music, but the songs are masterfully crafted, and she's ridiculous.
Yeah.
She's ridiculous at singing, right? So I think maybe 20 years ago I would have dismissed some stuff that now I'm hearing the musicality in, or I'm appreciating the presentation in. And hopefully we're all making that leap.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting with someone like Celine, so many of her big hits were either written or produced by David Foster.
Yeah.
And his collection is pretty diverse too. I mean, like I was just working on this with a student and I hadn't realized that he wrote Through the Fire for Shaka.
Oh.
And I was like, David Foster wrote this song? And he did. And I think, didn't he also write, I think he wrote After the Love Is Gone.
Okay.
For Earth, Wind, and Fire. So it's like,
really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, who knew? And he's an interesting man. Like, I watched his documentary and I was like, ugh. Oh. He has his moments. But like, very musical and lots of different influences in different places.
See, I think it's easy to sort of idolize the past, but when you look at the songwriting from Earth, Wind, and Fire records, or Stevie Wonder records, or James Taylor records, or Paul Simon, a personal favorite of mine, I think for me the goal is to pull some of that musicality into whatever we're doing in our current thing. As you said, still looking forward. I think I was really excited when you asked me to write a song as a songwriter who is I think of myself as a guitarist first. I write songs that I then find out are difficult for me to sing because I'm just sort of writing as they appear, and then it turns out they're usually rangy and awkward melodies, and so to be able to write for someone with such ease with their voice like you was exciting, right? And I hope that song, Make Our Way Home, incorporates some of the musicality that we love from our influences and still feels like it has a space today.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. It feels forward. But nostalgic. Like home. Yeah.
Well, actually that's the whole point of the song is that you take this journey and arrive where you started and realize that you can appreciate it differently than the first time around.
Yeah. Yeah, and like when I'd come to you about it, we were probably at the beginning of the pandemic, right? So there was like that whole factor that played into whether we were thinking about it or not, at least a little of that. And the discussion that we had thinking like, okay, why am I interested in making music right now anyway? And me coming to you like, okay, well, I've been somebody's front person for a long time. I've been gigging, I've been doing other people's music and feeling like it's time for me to find a way to get in the front myself and get hurt a little bit. So that was, again, this forward and backward motion kind of thing. And that song feels like that place for me too.
Good.
And I think when we were in the studio or maybe in one of the rehearsals, I think Luke said something to the effect of that it feels like our song. And I was like, oh, okay, good. That means I'm doing it right. If it's your song and I can still make it sound like it's yours, but sound like it's ours, then we're doing it. So that was great. That felt good.
That's great. It's good that it feels like yours. That's good. I mean, it was written for you. But, I think about this a lot. Ray Charles, every time he sings a song, it seems like he wrote it, whether he did or not. His version is still crazy after all these years. It's like, I just can't. I would love to know what Paul Simon thought about that the first time he heard it. He was just like, how did he write that song that I wrote?
Yeah.
So, as a great vocalist, you're tasked with interpreting a lot of material that you didn't necessarily write, and somehow making it believable to the audience, right? I don't think the audience is going to hear that and think, "Oh, somebody wrote that for her." They're gonna be like, "Oh, I know this story," or hopefully.
Yeah, well, we hope so. Maybe we can talk about the people in the band.
Yeah.
We can gossip about them.
I like that.
So that Ben guy.
I got lots of stories about Luke.
Oh, no. Well, go ahead. Tell me a little about Luke first.
Okay, well,
about
the
your
band,
relationship with Luke.
Here's another fun thing about this project is that you are a musician who wanted great musicians. So that's a pleasure. So we have Luke Carlos O'Reilly on keys and Shane Azarud on upright and Eric Johnson on drums, all of whom are great musicians. I've known Eric for years because an old rock band that I had played a bunch of shows with the Fractals. And,
oh, cool.
He's an incredible musician, of course. Shane and I have done a lot of work together over the years because I just keep calling him like, hey, do you want to do more of my music? And he keeps saying yes. I don't know why, but so we've developed a really nice musical relationship. And that relationship is, a lot of it is just based on duo playing. So it's very, very in tune. Every note matters. And so I'm glad to have him on the project because you're super in tune with the bass, which I was not exactly expecting. Every time I'm like, what do you think of this? You're like, well, the bass does this something. I was like, really? Which is really good for me because my wife is a bass player and I have learned through that how tuned to the guitar register my ear is versus hers.
Interesting.
Very tuned to the bass register. And you also relate to that register. So it's a good reminder for me as a producer to, we have to keep this whole frequency thing in
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I think sometimes maybe it's because the bass feels most distant from what I'm able to do with my voice. So it feels like the strongest anchor for me, where it's just okay, there's no chance I can ever sing that low. Or there's some things I could do that could close to replicate maybe the fullness of a bass, but definitely not the tone. So maybe that's why my ear is just so pinched to it.
And we were just in the studio yesterday, and the amount of space on the record is something that I'm really happy with. I like it when you can hear what people are doing, when what they're doing matters, right? And we have that. There's space for you. Obviously, you're the focus. And we can hear the nuances of what you're doing. We're not going to have to play any games with that. Like you're there, and you have the ability to carry that, which is a wonderful thing. And then the guitar and the piano aren't really competing, right? Because we're there serving the songs, and there's space for the upright. On some recordings, you're like, what is that upright bass doing? It doesn't feel that way on this recording. There's an openness to it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I there's something about when you hear a really good record, I feel like, and it might be particular to jazz, but I don't think it is. It's just something that might be noticed more in jazz because often those records are a little less produced and a little less glossed over. I notice that the best music comes when everybody plays different roles, but also the same role at parts. So it's like, okay, we're noticing that some way that somebody kind of brings out a little line here. Maybe it's you doing something with guitar. A moment later, you're hearing that little sparkle in the drums, or you're hearing that in the bass. So it's like, it's not just about people playing 4 different roles. Everybody's kind of jiving with each other and filling in where the other one lays out.
And you've been really consistent about that message from when we first started talking about the record. You wanted interplay. You wanted it to feel like people making music together. You wanted to feel like part of a band. Have you ever had a band? Have you ever been in a band? I don't know. It's kind of interesting. I think of you as like this singer kind of on a pedestal, you know what I mean? But you very much wanted to be in the kitchen with the musicians, everybody interacting. Well,
I'm not sure.
This to me feels...
I just want friends. That's what this is all about. I just want friends.
One of the things about this project that was exciting but also a little intimidating is it seemed to me like you were, as I said before, looking for this organic space, looking for your voice in a way, which is a challenge. You know, that's a challenging road to walk.
Yeah, you
But
had a
I'm-
lot of questions for me. I felt like I couldn't answer 2 years ago. I was like, I don't know. I know I can sing and I know I want to sing. I just don't know what I want to sing yet.
Yeah, well, that's the exciting part about the project is that I think when, you know, in our development, you're a student, maybe get hired in this role, you're a background singer, I mean, the first time I remember seeing you sing was with the Pops, where you were absolutely going toe to toe with great singers. You were singing lead as well, you know, and I was quite.
That was a day.
Well, I understand that, but from the audience perspective, I thought this woman is killing. What is she doing on that stage?
I didn't know what we were doing.
Well, you killed it. But at any
Thank
rate,
you.
that's a very specific role. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
you're going to come in here, sing this part with these singers, whatever. This is a different situation. You're creating your artistic identity.
Yeah.
And I think we have the band to help bring those ingredients.
Yeah. Yeah. And I knew that, like I said, I knew I wanted to sing and I just didn't know what. But I knew that there was going to be, we had to find the point. But because I had so many influences and so many opportunities to sing a lot of different things, and like that's what I get to do as a gigging person.
Yeah.
And it's the thing I take most pride in as a gigging person, that I can get called and say yes to a lot of different things. Not everything, but I can say yes to a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And I knew that like that might lead to a little confusion and a little misdirection at first and a little trial and error. But we were going to get to something.
Yeah.
And it was going to be cool. We just had to find our way there.
Yeah. And that's the journey. And what I think that I can, as I said, I can relate to that experience. You have a lot of questions along the way. Should I go in this direction? Would it appeal to more people if I went in that direction? You know, does this sound natural to me, or is this forced, or whatever? All those questions. Ultimately, what I've found is the more I've tried to meld these influences and just sort of be sincere in my artistic expression, the more people relate to it. The truer it gets to my artistic expression.
Yeah.
And I think we're on that path with you.
Cool. That's
Anyway,
great.
I didn't talk about Luke. Let me say something
talk about
Luke.
Luke. Talk about Luke.
This guy. Moving on.
Oh, that's it.
No. Different Luke, not you. Well, Luke Carlos O'Reilly is one of my oldest friends, close friend. We've been in a band for 15 or 17 years together called the Mini Qs. It's an organ trio, so he plays organ, I play guitar. One of the beautiful things about organ trio is that it just like the science of it creates space for everyone. When the organ player is playing the melody, his other hand is taking care of the bass, which leaves me space for the harmony.
I see.
Right? If the organ player is playing the harmony and I'm playing the melody, I have space for the melody. Right? Soloing works the same way. So because we've spent so much time listening to one another and creating space for one another, I think when we got together, guitar and piano, in support of you, there was an immediate sort of understanding of where we could throw in the spice, lay down the foundation, take a breath. And I think that trust actually is tremendously important. Maybe the most important thing in a group is the trust that I can be quiet right now and it's going to continue.
Yeah.
Right? The trust that I can say something right now and it's going to serve the music. Luke's a very soulful musician, and I'm really happy that he's a part of this.
Me too. Yeah, me too. It sounds beautiful. And it's clear when you two play together that you've been playing together.
And you can't buy that.
No.
You know, you can get a lot of talented people, and you would be able to just, you know, hire a very talented quartet and go into the studio and make something.
Yeah.
And it would probably come out sounding very nice. But Shane and I have spent hundreds and hundreds of hours playing together. Luke and I have spent a decade and a half playing together. Eric's been on his craft for decades.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you and I have spent a lot of time working on this music, rehearsing this music, talking about how it should go, sharing ideas. And that's something that can't be bought. And ultimately, I hope that people feel a genuine expression when they listen to the stuff because of the time that's been put into it.
Things. Do you play any other instruments besides the guitar?
Yeah, I play a little bit of keys. Piano is my first instrument. I played trumpet all through school, although I have not played trumpet in many years. And I record a little bit of bass. I never gig on bass, and I sing. Yeah, but I'm most proficient at guitar. But I would say that there's some keyboard players who've been tremendously influential for me in terms of how I try to approach harmony on the guitar. Dana Saray is one of them, and Luke is a very important influence. But I think also being a songwriter, I think like you, all of this experience that you have as a side person or as a member of the chorus, or for me, you know, as a sideman backing up a great singer, and as a songwriter, as a singer, as someone who needs to learn how to capture the attention of an audience, all of those things sort of factor into how I approach writing or singing or producing a record.
So what pulled you away from the piano and over to the guitar?
I mean...
It's just cooler.
It's way cooler. It's way cooler. The Beatles, Jimi Hendrix, Nirvana, you know.
True.
All that guitar stuff was just way cooler.
Yeah.
But I really do love the piano. It may be I've said this before, I think, you know, an acoustic piano might be for me, the greatest acoustic instrument, and a Hammond organ is the greatest electric instrument. Which might be why I'm sort of drawn to like trying to translate some of that harmony onto the instrument.
Interesting. Yeah. I love to play the piano. I wish I were better at it. I picked up enough in school to be able to accompany in my lessons.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not great. My inadequacies come with comping, I guess just comping feels. Because I have some ideas and I feel like all of the songs I comp sound exactly the same. Every time. I'm just like, okay, is that really all you got? You can't do anything else? I'm like, no, this is it.
I know, but I know what you mean. But I'd love to hear you accompany yourself, actually. Now that I think of it, I've not heard you do that. I'd like to hear that.
I get very distracted. So, like, the singing and the playing together is not fabulous. But I don't mind playing for my students. I actually really do enjoy it. And my dad played piano, so that was what everybody played in the house.
Look, having that working knowledge, though, is tremendously important.
Yeah.
Having worked with a variety of great singers over the years, the folks who had even just a working knowledge of an instrument were able to express their ideas more clearly. It's hugely important. And I would also say another thing. I think sometimes we think that we have to have an endless vocabulary at our disposal to be effective on this or that instrument.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure that's true. I think when we hear some of our favorite folks are immediately recognizable on their instrument. And we don't hold it against them that they can't play extravagantly diverse
That's interesting.
material. You know what I mean? I think there's
like
something...
Madonna. Or Britney. We're back.
There's something to the potency of that.
Yeah,
you know, you
totally.
find, this is what I can do. I do it in this lane, and there you go. You know?
Yeah. I wish I were better. But, you know, I think you're right. I know it's made me a better singer.
Yeah.
I also played the clarinet for many, many years. Yeah. Now, that is not like riding a bike. No, it is not. I don't know how. I thought I don't know if it's an embouchure thing, if it's on a woodwind, but I thought that would come back to me.
Yeah.
It's not come back. I put my mouth to a clarinet maybe 2 years ago. That was sad. That was disappointing. The
I had-
fingering, that I remembered,
Wow.
but not this.
Well, you got to pick your battles. You know, there's only so many hours in the day.
It's
I don't
true.
think I think doubling on piano is much more
So
useful
you
than
think people don't want to hear me play the clarinet?
I think that if you have a voice like you have, you should stick with that.
That's very diplomatic. That's nice. Thank you. Oh boy. If there's clarinet solo snuck in, it's not me.
I actually love the sound. This is so funny.
Nobody
but
loves the sound of clarinet.
No, yes, I do. I want to. I actually just asked Eric Sales to do an arrangement on a song of mine. I was like, I'm hearing. I was like, I'm sorry, this is ridiculous. I'm hearing like strings and woodwinds. Like I want to hear, but like oboe, bass clarinet,
Yeah.
like the wooden reed instruments.
But that's the thing. If somebody plays it bad, you can feel the wood. Like it gives you goosebumps. Like it gives me goosebumps, and not good, exciting goosebumps. Like yuck. I want to know if you have any on the road rituals, since you're getting ready to go out again.
On the road rituals,
Like anything you do when you
man.
get wherever you're staying, or when you're at the airport, anything like that.
That's a reasonable question. I'm trying to think of how I want to answer that, though. The road is a little weird because you're moving from place to place every couple of days. Mm-hmm. And I've been very fortunate to do that where the infrastructure is really smooth and things are taken care of. It's pretty amazing how fortunate I've been in that regard. And it's still challenging. You know, it's weird to live out of a suitcase and not see your loved ones for weeks on end.
Yeah.
You know, that's an odd thing. So, yes. So what I have developed over the years is a pretty Spartan approach. Like most of my clothes are black.
Okay.
I carry like 2 weeks worth of clothes. I just did laundry before I came over here. I only drink coffee and water. I'm always on a quest for vegetables because the road, you know, it's really easy to eat poorly and not get any sleep and drink too much. And, you know, all those things that I think kind of have like a little bit of a gloss of the rock star thing. And that stuff will wear you out. That stuff will take a toll. So now that I'm, you know, I've been doing this for a bunch of years, I've developed a whole bunch of, like, I've sort of whittled away the stuff that was not helping.
Okay.
So what I would say is, like, I'm always looking for a bookstore, and I'm always looking for the best coffee we can find. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's sort of like since I don't drink, it's sort of like, do you want to take this, you know, do you want to take this mile walk to this really fancy coffee shop? And it's like, yes, we're going to do that. We're going to do that.
I love that. I think whenever I land, I'm looking for some way to just normalize the fact that I'm going to be sleeping in a hotel and not in my bed.
Yes.
So usually the first thing I do when I get to a room is I'll either find where the closest convenience store is, or I'll put in an order for like Target to go and have them deliver to me.
Really? What do you get?
Like just easy breakfast things usually, because that's the one meal that like is definitely not worth $14 for an egg.
Yeah.
That makes me crazy. So like sometimes I'll get cereal, sometimes I'll get like a bunch of bananas, like things like that are just easy that I can eat in the room.
Yeah.
And things I definitely can't bring in the suitcase. And I have that order like taken care of right when I get there. So it's just like literally the whole time. And you know, sometimes you finish late. So you want to have something you can eat when you get back that's not awful for you at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So that's when I'll have bananas and cereal and sometimes a lot of water. Sometimes I'll get like a super jug of water to have with me. But yeah.
Target to go. I might
Yeah,
have to
that's the move.
steal that one from you.
Yeah. Yeah, and they'll bring it right to your room.
They deliver it to you?
Yeah, like right to the hotel room. You don't have to go anywhere.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I sometimes even do that, like if we go really far and I'm beat, sometimes my first meal is even just something familiar. Like I'll do like Chipotle or something that's like I've eaten here in Philly.
Yeah.
I'm not looking for like everything to feel like home. You're out. You're seeing sometimes a new city. You want to do something fun for yourself. But sometimes you're like, yeah, I just want to eat something easy.
Yeah, I feel you. That's right. You hitting the grocery store and picking up something that you want to eat rather than you're like forced to eat because it's midnight now and there's no. Yeah, definitely that. There are a couple places that I try to go to whenever I'm there. Like I've been to the Art Institute in Chicago many times, like maybe
so that should be
8
on
or
my
10
list.
times, you know. Oh yeah, you should go.
Okay.
There's a bookstore in Columbus that I try to go to.
The guitar store, right?
In Seattle, yeah, where I got this beautiful old
Seattle's one of
archtop.
my favorites. I loved it. And we did our show there, and it was a New Year's Eve show. So we were there like over the holiday, and that was fun. Yeah, I think it's a cool city.
Seattle is beautiful in some ways, just absolutely beautiful. I felt this way about some places in the West. You know, you go out there and you're like, well, no wonder nobody came back. You know, they were like, what? We're just staying here. This is definitely better. That said, I'm East Coast all day.
That's fair. Okay, what else did I put? Oh, I want to know if you have a pump up song. The people want to know.
Because when you think of me, you're like, that guy's pumped up.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Like before you get anywhere, I just picture you either in the car or at home, just like getting ready.
You do not picture me like that.
There has to be something you listen to.
My wife is way better at that than I am.
At pumping up?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's like, it's great. Like sometimes we're making dinner and she goes down like a 80s nostalgia rabbit hole, and it's good because I wouldn't do it myself, but I'm always glad that we're on that trip. You know who's a crazy band is Tears for Fears. Have you ever checked out Tears for Fears?
Not a lot of Tears for Fears.
It's worth checking out a couple. It's like highly musical.
Wow.
Yeah, it's killing,
Juicy.
And I didn't know.
Okay.
Pump Up Ritual. For me, I to be honest, like before a show, for example, I spend 20, 30, sometimes 60 minutes just on the instrument, running scales.
You're so dedicated.
Well,
that's so good.
Thanks, but and running specific parts that are important intros or whatever that I need to do. But we're expected to go out there and sound good, and so I do my best to do that.
Yeah.
So that's sort of it's more on the meditative side than it is on the pump up side. But I will say, a lot of times in the dressing room, usually the music director is much better at pumping up than I am, and he will establish a playlist. And basically, by the time we get to this or that song, it's about time to hit the stage.
Okay.
And that happens for every tour. So I'll be interested to see what happens on this time around.
So does that include some of the music you're going to play?
Oh, no.
No.
No, never that.
Okay, good.
But it's like I remember one tour we did, it was like before we hit the stage, there was something from James Brown at the Apollo.
Oh, cool.
That was killing. And so we're all like, all right, here we go. Last tour, it was a contemporary song that was also like, all right, here we're gonna hit the stage. But for me, I think I tend to keep it on the meditative side rather than the pump up side.
Okay.
But then this is the funny thing, trying to maintain some balance, and then you got to go out there and act like a rock star.
That's why I thought you might be pumping up.
Well, this is my question for you. Is what's your wind down like? Because coming off stage is it's kind of this adrenaline roller coaster that's very strange.
Yeah, I mean I do a vocal cool down.
Okay.
So like that immediately just is relaxing the voice, but also kind of my mind. It's just like, okay, let's unwind, let's kind of relax and focus on this. And usually I have a few minutes. we have a little bit of time at the venue after we finish. So it's not a very quick exit, which isn't the worst thing. I'm able to like kind of take off all the makeup, all the hair, and get ready to just actually go home and go to bed or go back to the room. But even like if I'm in Philly and like leaving a wedding and like, cause like those get loud.
Yeah.
And like sometimes that's the worst part of coming down afterwards. Like getting your brain and your equilibrium kind of like right back. At least for me anyway. But yeah, that's a quiet thing. That might be where a podcast should come into play.
I think the adrenaline dragon is like the whole ball of wax. But what do you do to get pumped up then? Shots of Jaeger? That's sort of how I picture you.
Wow. No, I'm not that fun.
At all.
No, I'm not that cool.
Not at all.
If I have a pump up song, well, lately it's been Little Lies from Fleetwood Mac, and I don't know why. I heard it on the radio, and I was just like, "This is a great song."
Yeah.
So like that plays. I don't know why.
Nice.
But I don't really do anything else. I've been like you were asking me earlier if I like have a vocal health kind of regimen. I'm not great, but there are a few things I do. Tasha put me on to watermelon water. And at first it's a little watery. But it's good, and it kind of keeps you lubricated and keeps you feeling good so you can sing. So sometimes I drink that. But then it makes you have to pee a lot, so I can't drink it right before because that's bad. That's bad for the on stage.
Yeah.
Especially when you're trying to dance. When you have to two-step and you have to pee, that's actually the worst feeling. That's the worst feeling on stage. There's nothing that puts more pressure on me than like, oh God, I might have to leave the stage.
So do you have like water requirements for your day? Like I'm trying to drink 2 liters of water a day or what? And if so, do you like, you're like, okay, I'm going to be on stage from 7 to 9. So I'm going to stop drinking water at this time or
yeah,
like
usually there's like 20 minutes till I'll try to stop with the water and I'll try to stop singing at that point.
Yeah.
Just so I can get my mind a little more relaxed. Because you know what you're doing up there. Like the last 20 minutes aren't going to make or break what happens on the gig. It's like studying for a test, at least for me.
Right.
So usually if we're there an hour before or even more, all of that is prep time. And that includes getting my makeup on and kind of putting the music on if I need it. But the last 20 is, all right, wind down. You're going to be fine. And then Little Lies. Or 9 to 5. Dolly Parton. Yeah.
Dolly and Stevie. Right on.
Yeah, I love in 9 to 5 when you can hear the typewriter click. Ding, ding, ding. That gets me. That gets me going.
I need to revisit some Dolly Parton.
Just for me. Yeah, I know.
I dig it. I dig it. I love Willie Nelson's voice.
I know.
I love the way he sings.
He's so cute. Like, he's cute now. He's precious. But he's very political.
Yeah.
He's very political.
I'm with it. He kind of like forged the path in country music politics. Like, I don't care what you think. This is what I'm saying.
I love it. What else did I put? Can you think of one piece of musical advice that you've received that's been influential?
Oh, geez, how to boil it down. The first thing that comes to mind is a piece of advice that I got from Chase Utley, who was a former baseball player.
Do you know Chase Utley, or?
I've talked with him several times.
Wow.
One time I had quite a fairly in-depth conversation with him.
Wow.
He was very gracious with his time, and I'm always going to be thankful for that.
Is he as tall as he looks?
I mean, next to me, he looks like a superhuman. I have a picture I have to find. I mean, yeah. It's funny because in the sport, he's not the biggest player by any stretch. But in real life, he looks like Yeah. He looks like he's from the future or something.
So wait, you can't tell. How do you know Chase Utley?
I don't know Chase Utley. I just have met him a couple times.
Okay.
Well, first of all,
this is so random.
Well, my wife and I are big Phillies fans, particularly,
okay.
and kind of Philly sports fans, but specifically Phillies fans. And
so you were watching last night, I assume.
Yeah. The thing with Chase was the way he went about it was so inspiring, right? Every at bat, every pitch, he was present. And part of his feeling, he said something along the lines of like he never felt like he was talented enough to just sort of coast on talent. He had to do the work, and I very much relate to that.
Yeah.
The funny thing about that mentality is that if you do the work year after year after year, you get pretty good at what you're doing, and people look at you and they say, "Wow, so much talent."
Which there's such a love-hate relationship with that, because you should let yourself love that, because if you've tricked people into thinking that it's natural, right. then you might have nailed
winning.
it.
Yeah. Right. Yes, but it takes a tremendous amount of work to get there, I like using sports analogies with my students because it's something that's a little bit outside of music, right? So it can give you a different perspective.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, I met Chase a few times. The last time was actually when he was with the Dodgers, and I was playing an event out there, and
you called him,
and I cornered him.
Hey, Chase.
No, I do not know
Ben.
Chase Utley. I just am a big fan, and he was very gracious with his time. So I asked him if he had any career advice, and he did I tell you this story before?
I don't think so.
Oh, really? Okay. You were like, maybe, but it's about sports, so I stopped listening.
No, I don't know a lot about sports, but I'm interested in sports.
Okay. I asked him if he had any career advice, and he thought about it for a second. It was, and this is what I would say to anybody: if you have an opportunity to meet someone that you're interested in, if you get an opportunity to meet Shaka, right, that you have 10, 20, 30 seconds to think about what is it that I really want to ask this person. Because you have an opportunity to say, I love your music, it's meant so much to me.
Yeah.
But that's not actually getting anything from the exchange. They're going to say, thank you very much, and move on. So what do you want to ask this person? Yeah. So if you ask the right question, you can get some interesting information. Because
I wish I would have known that when I met Aretha. What a bummer.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
When was that?
Oh, when she came to Philly to do the papal visit, when we did the concert for the Pope. I don't know what I said. I said something brief, and she said, uh-huh. That was it. Like, I got my from Aretha.
Which is awesome.
I know. I hold that moment in great reverence, but yeah, that's all I got.
That's, well, yeah, I mean, yes.
But it sounds like your interaction has been much more influential. I
said, do you have any advice on longevity? And it just happened that he had a long career, but turned out this was his last season, so he was about to retire.
Wow.
And he knew that, and nobody else knew it, or he was considering it, or whatever. Anyway, the first thing he said to me, and this is back to you can edit all this out. Your question was, what's a piece of musical advice that really stuck with you?
Yeah.
And this is it. He said, well, you have to love it, because otherwise it's too hard.
That's good.
And that's it.
Wow. That's good.
Yeah, so I would say that to any student, and I check in with myself every once in a while. Do you still love this? Because it's not easy. And fortunately, this happens. Like I was practicing for the duet that we did on your record, and what I was trying to do was challenging for me. It was really like pushing my ability to the best of my ability. That's some of the best playing I've ever done. And it's because I was working on it. As I was working on it, I would come out and say to my wife, Jo, I still love guitar. This is still fun. This is still exciting.
Yeah.
I can't believe I just discovered this thing. I've been playing this thing for, however many years, and it's still like giving to me.
Yeah.
So that's the advice that I think has really stuck with me is you have to love it.
Yeah. That's great.
What about you? Was it?
It was definitely
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That said everything
It's
and then some.
yes, I know that.
Okay, so we surveyed the entire city, and they all want to know about your hair care routine. Everybody wants to know because you just
did
got a
not.
little trim, didn't you?
I did.
It looks good.
Thanks.
Do they have any requirements for you, like before you go out? Like, do they expect you to come back? No split ends or?
That's funny.
Everybody wants to know.
Nobody wants to know about
That
my
is
hair care
not
routine.
true. People want to know. People want to know. I mean, especially you and Shane. This duo, like Shane also has great hair, but Shane's hair is very different than yours.
It's different, and he is handsome. And
he is handsome.
Yeah. Oh man.
I actually just picked this band because you're all handsome.
Because of
that. Yeah, it's just a looks thing, really.
I mean, funnier things have happened. I have definitely been called for gigs because I had the look, and been not called for gigs because I didn't have the look.
Get out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So hair care.
Hair care routine. Okay, this is simple.
If you say soap and water, we're not going to be pleased. That can't be all that happens.
I get a fancy haircut every once in a while.
Okay. Here in the city?
Yeah.
Do you have your guy?
I do. And that's an expense that I don't love, but I'm willing to spend the money on it. Mm-hmm. It's a necessary expense. So I would encourage like any of my fellow. Well, this is a funny thing with musicians. Maybe it's different for vocalists, but musicians a lot of times we're just so unaware of the fact that presentation matters. I think authenticity matters more, but presentation does matter.
Yeah.
And so go ahead, get the haircut. It's okay. It's part of the job.
It's an investment. It really is. And I think you're right. I think people take it for granted. It's like, yeah, we get to hear you, but we have to look at you too.
Right. I've said this to students before. It's like, well, we're going to wear all black for the recital, And I said, I don't mean any offense, but like, if you hate wearing all black, maybe you need to buy some new all black clothes that you feel good in, because you're going to wear them a lot. You're going to wear lot of all black, friend. Go ahead, get some clothes that fit you right if you're able to, and you'll feel better about it. That's part of the people don't understand. There's something about it. Doesn't matter if the stage is 6 inches off the ground or 6 feet off the ground. There's something about being on that stage that people think you're cool. People think you matter. Okay, so I pay for the haircut, and then I use 2 different shampoos. I sort of alternate 2 different shampoos, and then if I'm really like today, I had to put it on. I did use a little. I use this. It's like a powder. I don't know what it's, but anyway, it gives me a little texture because I have very straight hair.
Okay.
Right. So I use this kind of like powder that puts a little texture in it.
A little volume at the top.
Yeah, a little volume. That's exactly it.
Gotcha.
That's it. But I only do that for things that really matter. So
like today. Thank you.
Today. And then, like, the gig that I have. That's it.
Well, it's a good thing this is filmed and not a podcast.
Yeah, because I hope my hair looks okay. They can
see your hair. Yeah, it's good.
I asked you, I was like, what are you wearing? What should I wear tomorrow? Mm-hmm. What are you wearing? And you were like, oh, it's fine. It'll be casual, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, help me out here. You know what I mean?
You're going to come in
looking. Well, thanks. I was laboring over this. I was like, should I wear a collar shirt, or should I wear the boots, or
No, this is perfect.
Well,
this is good.
It's just because we're tuned in. That's because we spent so much time over the last couple of years.
See, but when you've come to my house, like half the time I'm still in my sweats. So like that's not a representation. Like there was not a guarantee I was going to get dressed today.
I had a sense because I've seen you present yourself, and also the rehearsal look, which we all have too. That's okay too. Okay.
Yeah, but my at-home look has elevated to matching sweatsuits. So yeah, it's bad. It's a little soccer mommy. Like I'm trying to be cautious of that line.
I think we should be cool with wearing sweatpants at home. I think that's okay.
I think so.
Especially you. I mean, I see this with the vocalists that I work with. They spend I don't know, maybe 2 hours before the show, just in the room. We don't see them. You know what I mean? The guys are like at catering, you know, doing push-ups, like anything, whatever.
Pumping
like,
up.
Yeah, right. Like, you want to take a walk outside real quick? Yeah, okay. You know, come back 15 minutes beforehand, we put on our clothes and we walk on stage. The women have a great deal of preparation because, you know, and they look fantastic because there's sort of that's an expectation.
But I'll say it's part of what gets you in that space. Like we were talking about what we need to kind of get there before you get on stage. Like there is a part of this that you're just like, okay, I'm on stage. I'm in this outfit that naturally boosts up your posture. It makes you want to perform better because you know you look good.
Right.
So you're like, well, I can't sound bad now because that's embarrassing. But like I've noticed that even for gigs sometimes where I'm a little more casual or I don't put on the false lashes or I don't do the lipstick, I don't perform as well. Because I'm way more casual about it. Because, you know, sometimes when you're doing a show you've done a lot, you can get a little zoned out, a little checked out, and not completely. Like, you're there, you know what's happening. But sometimes I'm just like, all right, I've sung this song a million times. I know how this goes. And you're thinking about what you're going to do when you get back.
Yeah.
But when you're up there and you look good, I feel good. And I feel like I do a better job.
So that's part of your getting in the mindset for the show. Got you. Well, it's similar. I think that's, you know, me with the warm up on the instrument. It's like, this show matters. I'm going to try to approach it with, you know, with focus. Because if you're already thinking about like, what am I going to eat when I get back to the hotel? Yeah, that's not the best space to be in. Sometimes you just are there. Yeah, you know, but it's you would hope to like really bring it. Yeah, you know?
Yeah, that's also another piece of advice that I was given, to make sure that you're present, especially on stage. Yeah. And we're all guilty of it happening sometimes where you're not. But, you know, sometimes the job that you're doing, it might just be a one-night thing. Like you might only spend one night in, you know, wherever you are, or that might be your only time on that stage.
Right.
So it could be the best gig you'll ever have. So be there for it. Let yourself be present for it.
One thing in the studio with you that has been remarkable is to see your willingness to do a take, a second take, a third take. By the time it's like fourth take, you're like, Ben, I don't want to do any more takes. Those were the takes. That was it, you know, which I think is, I mean, there's several things at play there. One is you know what you want to do going into it. You're present when you're doing it. And then you have the confidence to say, that was it. I'm accepting that take as it was, which I think is fantastic.
Well, I think it's the perfectionist in me stopping myself from it because I know that I can let it go and do it again and do it again and do it again. And like when we were doing the session a few weeks ago, and I think you were encouraging me to do like a whole pass at something again. And I was like, look, I know the spots that aren't working for me, so we just got to click those in. Yeah. Like that's what it's going to be. And that has its advantages and disadvantages. But like yesterday when we were doing the duet, I was just like, I'm pretty sure I got it. And it wasn't the perfect take, but it was the take. Yeah. For me, I was just like, all right, that's the one. So,
I mean, that's a great space to be in. And it's great to have the facility to do that. And actually, it's been fun working with an engineer who, not to like pat ourselves on the back or anything, but he's clearly impressed with the level of musicianship that you bring into the thing. And that's fun to see.
Yeah. Hello. And he's quick. Like, he's so fast. He's very present in the space, too. And he's been fun to work with. That's been fantastic. Yeah. So we're going to make a good record.